Microdose, yeah. Microdose, 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 dose. Microdose, microdose, dose. Microdose, microdose, dose.
What's good, y'all? Microdose number 195. 195. One, that's spectacular for me. Two, that just means we only got 5 episodes left. And I couldn't think of a better guest to have on this with local by choice, international by nature, James Marshall from the Where Nobody Knows Your Name podcast. It's the unofficial Cheers podcast. They just entered season 11. I think we missed season 10. So sorry, guys. So sorry, but you'll have to figure that shit out yourself. James, what's good? How you doing? Thank you for being here.
All right, thank you. No, I'm glad to be here. Yeah, I'm glad to be in one of the final episodes up to your 200th. That's exciting. But yeah, season 11, the final season. We did the whole bottom of the ninth metaphor. We milked that as far as we could.
Man. You guys just entered season 11 of Cheers, the final season of Cheers, which means, in theory, this is the final season of Where Nobody Knows Your Name. Thoughts, feelings, anything we could look forward to? Break it down. Knee-jerk reaction.
It's an odd one. Because we've been doing it for 5 years, unlike Cheers itself, we didn't take any hiatus for that time, week on week for almost 6 years. It will be by the end of it. I think 3 months short of 6 years by the time we get to the finale of this season. And as a result, there was never a time to pause and go, okay, what's the strategy between seasons? So at the end, we're going to, in most likely, do the same thing the cast did and just get very drunk. When we finish the show. Yeah,
I hate to put you on the spot, but I insist on being a part of that party. I don't care what time of day it is. If work gets in the way, well, then work will get in the way. However, if it's 3 a.m, I insist on being there. When we first spoke, I remember I think it was one of your co-hosts was just like, this is the longest binge watch I've ever been a part of. And like, you and I met like in season 7 or whatever. Like I had gotten the box set on iTunes for like a steal for like $30. It was a Black Friday sale, whatever. Like, it was wildly discounted. I was like, there's no way I'm not getting this now. Anyway, went through the entire thing. I think it took me about a week. And again, I'm a freelancer, so by definition, that means I'm unemployed 75% plus of the year. So I only had time to watch this. So again, burned it out in a week. But yeah, you've been doing this for just under 6 years now. Like, man, what do you got going on? Are you just like, are you like starting to like, is the weight coming down on you? Like, oh yeah, maybe we do a Frasier podcast after this.
It's become more difficult as it's gone on due to both life commitments. One of our co-hosts in the time we've been doing the show has had a son of his own, so
nice.
That's been not the one you're referring to, not John, but Barry, who has been on Microdose as well. He's had a son of his own, so that's obviously something which we take into account and try to work around in terms of what's good for him. And that's just giving as much notice as you can to record things, basically. But yeah, when it comes to the end of it, there's various shows we're discussing. Probably not Frasier, only because 2 reasons. While we're big fans of Frasier as a show, I think both John and I, and by extension, Troy and Barry in all likelihood, have gone. It took us 5.5 years to do Cheers without any weekly breaks. It will take us another 5.5 years to do Frasier. So let's go for something a bit shorter. And secondly, there is a UK-based podcast about Frasier called We're Listening, which is thematically and tonally very similar to us in that we're a UK podcast talking about Cheers, so it feels like a uh, useful and convenient transition to go. We've talked about Cheers now. Go over to this one. They've got it from here.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. I mean, so if I only have 10 fingers, I think I've only seen 9 episodes of Frasier. Honestly, like I recognized it was a good show. I recognized why people thought it was a good show. I just never got into it. And I like the Kelsey Grammer. He's a funny dude, especially that second half of Cheers' saga. Like they just let him go, and it works in a lot of spots. But for whatever reason, it's like, I don't care on catching up with Frasier. And Frasier was in syndication for maybe as long as Cheers. Definitely not longer, but I think just as long.
Yeah. In the UK, here at least until 2012, both Cheers and Frasier were being shown weekday mornings, like 6 or 7 before
That's
people
right.
went off to drive to work, you know.
That's right.
And at that point, Cheers had been in syndication for what, 30, almost 30 years since it ended. Almost 20 years since it ended. So
Probably. I
yeah.
don't think you can find Cheers in syndication right now. Like we have every now and then, like, you know, everyone will always buy the cheapest thing and they'll put it on late night or whatever, and then a new channel will open up and that'll get absorbed into that, or et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if you can find Cheers in the United States, or at least not in San Francisco, in syndication anymore. Like you need to own it if you have it.
Yeah.
We missed season 10, but every time you come on, I always go like a couple episodes back, and then I go 3 or 4 episodes forward. And last night we recorded the Waffle Box. I had a great time doing that, and then something shitty happened to me, and I was just immediately in a bad mood. But then I was like, I need to prep for James's episode, so let's watch the final episodes of season 10, and then go into it. And sure enough, it was Woody and Kelly's wedding. And then we got 4 episodes into season 11, and just like by the end of that 2.5 hour run, I completely forgot what had happened that put me in a shitty mood, and was only loving life again. And dude, so what was the show's opinion on Woody's wedding?
John was a big fan of it. John is a big fan of the farce, and we did a whole because it was 2-parter, originally aired as a 2-parter. We did a double length episode, so just discussed both parts in one episode. But it's one of the episodes of Cheers where I would have loved to have been in the audience for, because it was particularly the second half was essentially a bottle episode with all the
all in that
chaos
kitchen.
possible. Yeah, as much chaos as possible, just in that one contained space. And it's things like that which Cheers does well, and that was a pinnacle of it. You know, the whole entire first season of Cheers, they never left the bar.
That's right.
But in Woody's wedding, they just went, right, let's do that sort of thing, but just have as many farcical, chaotic events as possible.
Oh my God, so much nonsense, so much chaos is happening in those 2 episodes. Like someone dies, Carla is in a dumbwaiter with a corpse, and then every time she's hoisted up, something distracts someone, and they got to drop her back to the basement again. And it's just like, what? Wow. There are Doberman pinchers in the backyard that we never see, but that's okay. We hear them. Woody is losing his goddamn mind, despite the fact that he should be waiting for his wedding night. He's like, we got to do this today, Kelly. Bang, 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 bang. Somehow Rebecca makes the entire culinary staff quit. And then she's in charge of icing it's thankfully the last level of the wedding cake. But yeah, this woman is in just peril. And then Sam is also fighting a German. He's not a Nazi. What I don't know what he is. He's a baron, but like he's definitely German. It's a whole thing.
Some German army soldier person.
He feels like he's out of the 19th century. He's not even in World War One. This character, but I also don't know much about Germany. So
we compared it to there's a British sitcom from the 80s called Allo Allo, and it's very farcical, and it's set in a cafe in France during World War II, but it's about a group
Yeah.
of resistance fighters, and they just, given it was the UK, just parodied all the nationalities that you'd see in the Allied forces. And he felt like a character from that show, just this very over the top, almost amp parody of, as you say, a Nazi.
So I know you're English, but is "poofta" literally a homophobic slur in German,
Yeah.
or do you not know it?
In the UK, it's an English word as well. Yeah.
Fascinating.
So we wonder what that could mean.
Right. Yeah, man.
And then when Fraser goes, you won't have to worry about the German draft board. I went, yeah, it's exactly what we thought it meant.
We get out of the wedding. We don't ever see the wedding. However, the next day or the next episode, it's just finally season 11. Vera's passed out in the back seat. Again, we still don't see her. Norm and Cliffy are in the smallest car ever. Holy shit. Like, I grew up in the 80s, and while Norm is supposed to be 2 years now younger than me, 3 years in August, um, I don't believe there's a car that would make him and Cliff be that, just like, we gotta tuck our shoulders in, dude. Like, if we're gonna make this drive, you gotta tuck our shoulders in.
It's like a Mr. Incredible in his little car.
Dude, exactly. Yeah, like, look, they're in a Mini Cooper. They might as well be in a Mini Cooper. But we start episode 11 or season 11, and Rebecca is going through that weird thing that chicks go through, where they were at a wedding, it's not their wedding, and they're wondering what they're doing with their life, and she's smoking, which, in 2024, it's weird to see anybody smoking on screen. And there's a lot of smoking in Cheers. Again, it was a different time. Also, by the way, when this episode comes out next week, will be 10 years, my 10-year anniversary of not having a cigarette.
Oh,
So,
muzzle top.
Gracias. Anyways, long story short, Rebecca burns down the bar. And it's the dumbest thing, to where, like, she didn't put the cigarette out in the ashtray properly. There's still some fucking embers in there. And then when she tosses it in this aluminum tin trash can, which isn't very big, it somehow blazes the entire bar and part of Melville's upstairs. And I'm just like, it doesn't make any sense still, but it probably still happened. And I guess what? In my 20s, after having a couple alcoholic pops, I fell asleep on my bed with a cigarette, and then, like, oh wow, now there's a cigarette burn in my mattress. Like, oh, that was dumb. Like, I would still wake up in time, like, oh, put that out. So I get it, but at the same time, it's like, that's just dumb. But fire doesn't have rules. So
no, fire does its own thing.
Fire does its own thing. Well said. Well said. I think that's going to be the ending. That's going to be the ending shot. Anyways, what do you guys think of Cheers burning down?
It was an interesting one. What we thought at the time was, going into its 11th season, and it also being notable that at this point, at the end of season 10, Kirstie Alley had been in it for as long as Shelley Long had been in that 5-season block. We thought that by starting season 11, by redesigning the bar with a kind of cataclysmic event, it put something in to go, okay, we know that this show's been going on as long as it has. Let's do something to shake it up in this 11th season, 6th season with a replacement lead, which is very rare for a lot of shows.
Yeah.
Unless you're talking, your CSIs and your Grey's Anatomy, which go on forever.
So again, I had a couple pops last night, and then only realized, oh, I should start taking notes here. So yeah, I got cigarette burns in the bar. Bar burns down. And then at some point, I think it's actually Ted Danson. I think it's Sam who goes like, I can fix this, but I need to create a product a simple product that America needs. And that might have been Rebecca too. Again, my notes are fuzzy here, but James Marshall, what is a simple product that America needs? Not necessarily even England, Europe, or et cetera, et cetera. It's a simple product that America needs.
That is a good question.
This is obviously 30 years since this episode aired. So those have all probably been absorbed. But what do you got?
The one which came to mind now, and perhaps because I've got a little drink in my hand here, is
there you go.
A cross between a Roomba and one of those sushi belts. But when it comes around with a drink, a little basically rollered placemat.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what I'm saying at this moment. I don't know if it already exists, but I want one.
If it does exist, it's very, very, very expensive. However, let's make it cheap enough for the average consumer. It's a $200 robot that brings you a drink. Is the robot also making you the drink?
See, that's where the difficulty comes in.
Sure.
Yeah. Unless you do a kind of Rube Goldberg type thing, where you just have an elaborate system and all it does is drop ice in your whiskey at the end.
Yeah. I mean, it's not impossible. And there were people who paid very good money for that. Despite like, oh yeah, now we got to reset it. All right, we got 15 other people here waiting for the drink for the Rube Goldberg machine. But there you go. Welcome to my home. Rube Goldberg is going to bartend for you. Yeah, holy hell.
Yeah. What about you? What's your simple product?
Yeah, I don't have one, man. Like I was thinking about it all night too. I was just like, what could we do? Like, Wi-Fi is now a thing. Bluetooth is now a thing. Like, I think I would want something to just say like, hey, stop playing your cell phone on the bus. I don't know. I don't have a bet. That's knee-jerk reaction. I noticed during the bar, again, only part of it is burnt down. Most of the actual physical bar is burnt down, but the brass is still there. It's hard to determine how these things are, and I don't think they're using all the actual like lights that surround the bar that you see in the credits every night. But for some reason, that hallway feels a lot more narrow when it's burnt up in episode 1 of season 11.
So our theory behind that.
You had so you noticed it too. Okay, I'm not crazy.
We have a theory, and the thing we know for a fact is when they film the office scenes, it's because they can swing half of the set away. So there's a seam in the actual bar, like the surface where they put drinks on, which folds away so that they can pivot half of the stage. The office scene's behind it, and they can film that. Just push the office scene out. Our theory is that instead of tearing down a whole set and then rebuilding it, they just folded one half out, folded another burnt half in, which is why you'd see the difference in the hallway size, because it's not the same set, it's just one which looks different, but similar enough that they can fold it to match the rest of the set. And because it's burnt, they don't actually need to make much in terms of decoration or things. They just go wall, ash.
Yeah, right. Okay.
That's our theory.
That's a good theory, and it makes 100% sense to me.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Apparently, Cliff knows the UFO interiors. Oh, this is episode 2 now. So, Cheers is getting ready to reopen. By the way, the bar is only burnt down for 1 episode. I guess that's nowadays we would have like a 10-episode arc of like we got to rebuild this bar. Oh my god,
take months.
It would take months, weeks, and months. So, but Carl had to get another job at some corporate bar. And it's like today it would be a Dave and Buster's. I don't know what the UK equivalent is. I'm sorry.
Weatherspoons is our biggest brand of pub you'd say, where
Okay.
it's I was gonna say there's nothing special about it, and I was like, yeah, no, that's true. It's got referred to as cheap and cheerful, in that it's the lowest common denominator. It is a pub. It serves alcohol. It has your classic pub foods and burgers and pizzas and things.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's the biggest chain pub there is here.
Okay.
Whereas
Okay.
Cheers like well, I can't think of a well-known bar in the UK which is an individual bar, but
Fair enough.
Cheers is an independent one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Does that bar actually have like video games and air hockey and all that dumb shit?
no.
Okay.
We're
Oh,
not classy enough in the UK to have that. Well, some bars do, but this pub staple, it just goes, no, no. You get your food and your drink. What else more do you want? It's British customer service at its best.
so in today's age, we have a thing called Dave and Buster's. I've just mentioned it 2 or 3 times now. I've only been in there once, but I've heard about it a few times. However, it's a bar, it's a restaurant, it's an arcade, so you can sit at a table and you can have your hot wings brought out to you. You can have a couple pints of beer brought out to you, etc., etc., etc. But you're surrounded by video games, and again, air hockey, the foosball, all that shit is there. If you look at the menu, there are no prices. It's quite fascinating, actually. And they're like, hey, there's this one drink we serve, and you got to have this one specific tequila part of it, and then there's some ice and some yellow flavoring and blah blah. But whatever, no price. The quietest part of this spot, me and my cousin who went to it for the first time. This is definitely pre-pandemic, so I'm gonna say 6 years ago. Anyways, we get there, and the quietest spot is actually in the bar part.
Mm.
Okay. Again, we notice there's no prices on anything, so we're like, oh, we actually have to make nice with the bartender, and maybe he'll charge us $5 for this. Maybe he'll charge us $10 for this. I don't know. He might charge us $20 for this. We go through everything, and there's also that gimmick. I'm sure you have this in the UK where it's multiple TVs forming one big screen. So in this case, it's 6 screens, 2 by 3. But some fucking drunk townie, way before we got there, a week ago, got there, threw a pint glass at the screen because his team probably lost. And so it's 5 screens that are all projecting correctly. And then this one thing was just fragging out. And you're just like, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. By the way, we are now in a time where flat screen TVs aren't very expensive. However, Samsung releases a different edition every year, so those 5 are all like the 2021A, but now you can only get the 2022B, so it won't fit. That one little piece won't fit. Yeah, so but they're also not going to spend $1,200 on a new TV.
No.
So we sat through that, and the only thing that came out with this, like, this is that resort hedonism too. Cut out the sex, double down on the children. It's all stupid.
I saw something about Dave and Buster's where they were allowing gambling and betting on the
Oh
bar
shit!
sports they had there, the air hockey and the foosball things.
Really? Oh my god!
I saw a great meme about it where it was oh, I forgot Tony Sirico's character in The Sopranos, Paulie, where he's there doing the little point he does with his fingers and goes, Tone, you gotta check this out. Just
Fascinating. I did not realize that. Yeah, we only went there the one time. Again, that was 6 years ago, possibly, and we haven't been back. And I'm just like, this place is terrible. It's exhausting. Again, the quietest place was the sports bar portion of it, and then you're just like, there's so many discrepancies happening here. But anyways, that's why I brought that up. But the guys at Cheers are loving this shit. Like they don't have air hockey, they don't have skee ball, they're not doing video games. They're just like, dude, there's like 10 different TVs here showing all our favorite sports. Holy hell. And they have a hard time going back to Cheers here. Like, thoughts?
we we understood the appeal of it as a new thing, you know, particularly the fact that they just kept bringing platters of food over.
Yeah, right.
Barry and I discussed that episode, and we went, "Yeah, that's not bad. Free food is pretty good." But given we've been talking about Cheers for 5 years, we're like, "No, this is a travesty. This will not stand."
Did it make you guys want to rush back home for Sam Malone's toasted saltines with cheese?
I heard about that. I went, doesn't sound bad actually. You know, when you get a bit, you get a bit peckish, but it's after 11 p.m. and you go, well, I can't have a full meal now. That would be that would be that would be crazy talk. But you know, these saltine crackers with cheese, that feels right. Yeah.
At some point, Carla's like, yo, I can't go back to Cheers. These people are, despite how annoying this whole environment is, they're paying me way too much money to just quit. And then we meet a Diane clone, and her name is Ellen. And I have 2 exclamation points next to that, and it is quite funny to me.
Yep. The actress who did that was fantastic because obviously she looked a lot like Diane in terms of the early archetype of that academic character, but also the pitch and delivery of her dialogue was to a T.
It was fantastic. So I want to say I got 2 more episodes into this, but I don't think I kept notes. Anything else we should be looking forward to in season 11 besides the final?
Yes,
because I think they go balls to the wall in this one. They're like, we got a license to do anything here.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got some returning characters from, I'd say, the pre-Woody era. So that will should interest audiences. But yes, some fan favorites from those early seasons. Recurring characters, as well as the setup for Frasier, the show.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Feel free to spoil that, man. What is the set for the Frasier show?
Lilith has an affair during the
Yes.
timeline of Cheers, which leads to the events of Frasier moving across the country because of their divorce. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why he moves. That's why he moves to Seattle, and the events of Frasier come to be.
Does he actually bring that up in Frasier, where it's like, my wife was in the biosphere and then she slept with a mole man or whatever happened?
That's exactly what happens. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that is what happened, but does he mention that?
He mentions that there is an affair. Yeah, a few times in Frasier, he mentions it because they divorced primarily because of the affair.
Yeah.
And I think the biosphere, well, that's true. I think it was a joke which was made more sense at the time in the early 90s. And I think the more it goes up, people just go, what are you talking about?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So we're getting down to the end of this here. What should people look forward to for the final season of Cheers?
That's a good question.
Whether you've covered it or not.
What Cheers did well in the finale and in the episodes leading up to the finale was it gave most of the characters a fitting emotional ending, because some of the characters didn't have much going on in terms of story arcs, your Norms and your Cliffs or whatever. But what it gave all of them was a sense of acceptance and satisfaction of their life, which fits in very well with Cheers thematically. And I think over the course of season 11, we get to see that a lot across the characters. These are characters who have known each other. In the case of Sam and Carla, who have known each other potentially the longest, almost 20 years.
Sure.
So we're seeing these characters come to terms with events that we have seen over all 11 seasons, and them accepting that. And although we don't know what happens to them after the end of Cheers, other than the clues and sporadic sentences we get throughout Frasier, we definitely get a sense of how these characters can best come to terms with themselves, which I think is what a final season of a show should do well, particularly a sitcom which isn't as plot intensive, particularly in the 80s, early 90s, where you don't have as many serial arcs going on. Yeah.
That's what's up.
Mm.
So, yeah, man. What should we look forward to with Cheers season 11? I know I went off book there, but I just wanted to know.
Uh, yeah. What to look forward to? As I say, I think it's looking forward to how these, which might sound more pessimistic than it is. It's looking forward to how these the arcs of these characters end. It's looking forward to, again, it's one of the more sad seasons in some way, perhaps bittersweet, but it's looking forward to how
Hmm.
Frasier is without Lilith, seeing how he tackles that and overcomes
Mhm.
that. Looking forward to definitely Rebecca having her own sense of identity, which isn't just reliant on a rich man.
Hmm.
Da, 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 da. Um, um, yes, and that
Rebecca
is,
seems to have multiple writers that don't know what to do with her. So sometimes she is just as fragile as a Fabergé egg. And
yeah,
other times she's just like, fuck you. I smoked 50 cigarettes on the van right over here. All right.
yeah,
You want to make me quit smoking? Like, I'm going to beat all that. And then she does.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, and yeah, it definitely is that. Ken Levine actually said that when Rebecca first came in, they knew they wanted to have a character which was different to Diane. They knew that
Hmm.
much.
Sure,
But in
sure,
the
sure.
first few episodes she came in, they wanted to get her from the front door of Cheers to the office as quickly as possible, because
Nice.
while they were still figuring out the character, they
Okay.
were like, "We'll give her a couple of lines, then straight to the office she goes. We're keeping you around, Kirsty, but you're going to be here for a while. We're just figuring out what arc to give you," which is why
With
the Evan Drake and Robin Colcord thing came in, because
within
they
those
realized,
parameters, man, she fucking killed it, dude. Because she
yeah,
literally goes like 40 feet into the office and she delivers just a line that you're like, damn, that's funny
yeah,
as hell.
yeah, 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 and they realized that Kirstie Alley had, and I'm paraphrasing what Ken said, Kirstie Alley had the uncanny ability to cry on demand, or
Yes,
just go in hysterics on demand, and they went, "Oh, okay, we'll use that." And it was going from that, not contradiction, but that double nature of
sure.
someone who's this independent businesswoman, but then burst down in tears at the drop of a hat. And having working with that two aspects of her character, they went, okay, we know what to do with the Rebecca character now, and
She
kept that up for 6 seasons.
Kirsty also Kirsty Allen, also rest in peace. She had the uncanny ability to actually like have a lit cigarette in her mouth
Yeah,
and then flip it so it's in her actual mouth where she was hiding it, inhaled all that smoke for 30 seconds, 1 minute. I
yeah,
genuinely don't know. But then she would flip it back out, and then she might cough.
yeah.
Like I don't know anyone who could do that.
I've only other seen one person do that, and it was a clip of, not behind the scenes on Jimmy Fallon, but like a little skit
Mm.
that they did before he was playing, and Jimmy Fallon goes into an RV and Willie Nelson's there, and he's asking Willie Nelson questions like, "Are you, looking forward to your performance?" Like, yeah, it's good to see you again after these years. And Willie Nelson's just going, and then Jimmy goes, "So I'll see you later there." And Willie Nelson goes, and he coughs, and just a huge amount of smoke just comes out of his mouth, and you go,
Oh,
"Okay."
nice. Nice.
Yep,
Yeah,
classic
man.
Willie Nelson.
Like I said, in 1 week, I'm gonna have 10 years under my belt of not smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works actually, though, having been to Amsterdam,
Mm.
and everyone likes to smoke weed with tobacco, and I'm just like, so does that mean I've only been 50 weeks without a cigarette or whatever? Um, However, where I'm going with this is, what do you guys think of Jimmy Fallon? What do you guys think of Jimmy Fallon or Graham Norton? Who's the better late night talk show host?
I think most people I've spoken to, well, everyone I've asked this question to, says Graham Norton.
He's great,
And
right?
Graham Norton's great because he wasn't the only person to do this. Your Carson did this as well. Dick Cavett to an extent. Parkinson, who was a British one. When interviewing, they don't suck up. They're polite. They're amicable. But if they
Yeah,
think
right.
their guest is being an idiot, they do tell them. Just not directly you're being there, but just make some sarcastic remark to them. Just to go, just rein your ego in.
For whatever reason, about 20 years ago, give or take a year, um, for whatever reason, Comedy Central started broadcasting the day in, day out of the Graham Norton show. So
Mhm.
for 6 weeks, I was exposed to Graham Norton. I was like, this is the greatest late night show ever. And then we didn't get it anymore. And I did not know why. However, only a few years ago, I was like, oh, there's a YouTube channel, but it's not even his YouTube channel. It's someone else like bootlegging stuff, and I don't have all the recent stuff. So is he still doing a thing or is he not?
Still doing his talk show, his most recent iteration of, because it's been through various formats and channels, but the most recent one's been going on for, I'd say, 15 years easily.
Okay.
Probably going up to 20. So the clips are probably the ones you've seen where it's on the sofa. You've got that background with circles, and
Mm-hmm.
he's got the red chair, which is a great
I'm
format.
seeing a lot of COVID episodes where like it's the widest angle you could have. Where,
Yeah,
like there's five people, but they're 30 feet apart from each other. And you're just like, oh, well, thank God you have a good audio guy.
yeah. What? And I hadn't seen this in any show done before Graham Norton, but I think he was clever in how he did this, where basically some of the guests may choose not to drink, and that's fine. But what he did was he brought them all out at the same time, tiered, so the one closest to him is the A-lister, if you like. But all
Okay. Interesting.
he said, "What drink do you want?" So it created a social aspect between the guests, whereas a lot of other talk shows brought on one guest at a time, then send them off, then brought another guest on.
Right.
And it's something James Corden copied for his own show, but doesn't do as well as Graham
Oh,
Norton
so
does. Yeah.
interesting. James Corden is now retired. I have not
Yeah.
seen any of his shows. Any YouTube clips I've seen has been that karaoke gimmick,
Yeah.
karaoke driving gimmick, which is fun. It's fine. It's fun. It's fine.
Yeah.
But with Graham Norton, yeah, if you don't have a glass of wine, you have a glass of water, and it's very
Yeah.
distinguishable. And some people need that wine, Emma Stone. Other people, are, The Rock is just like water all day, please.
And there was one, was it New Year's Eve episode or something like this, where Matt Damon got very drunk and just sat on Graham's lap for a good 20 minutes of the episode.
I haven't seen that episode. Holy shit! Yeah, I'd love to see that episode again.
Yeah,
We're
it's
we're only getting we're getting various censored episodes here, and there's a very dedicated channel that I have.
Mhm.
If you don't get that thing within 16 hours, you don't see it.
yeah. They post stuff quite often on their Facebook or Instagram, I think, clips from the latest episode, which tend to
Okay.
be quite good. They've not posted by Graham Norton and posted by BBC.
Mhm.
Yeah. Uh,
Thoughts
yeah.
on the Eurovision channel. So Eurovision just happened. It is the musical Olympics for the Americans
It's
out here. I only know of it because of the Will Ferrell movie
yeah,
during the pandemic, and then I was like, yeah, all right, but I don't know when it happens. However, I just know that it just ended, and
yeah.
I forget who won, but at the same time, I was like, oh, England got hated on, regardless
We
of what I think of it.
we often do. But
That was a joke in
uh,
the movie too.
yeah, it's partly political in that over centuries, whatever, the UK, Britain has done things which other countries don't like, and as a
Oh,
result, they go, "No,
that's me.
we refuse to vote for your very camp musicians."
That
Um,
thing that happened 200 years ago, you guys are still upset about. Yeah, I understand Europe.
um, but the thing which got me about this one is the UK's entry was already an established musician, of the band Years and Years, which, to my understanding, have done international tours. Like for you, no pun intended, they'd be doing this for at least half a decade prior to this
Right.
year's Eurovision. So when he got no votes from the public vote, where they asked the audience around the world what they thought, when he got no votes, I went, "Oh, he's gonna feel bad because he's a successful musician and everyone else thought, or the audience thought everyone else was better than him, or at least more votable." But it goes to what you
Right
said about
now.
the Israel-Palestine thing. Israel was a country in it. The venue we were watching didn't show their performance. That was that venue's stance on it, their political stance went
Sure,
fine. We
sure.
weren't voting anyway. We were there to drink drink and watch the performances of whoever we did see. Fine.
Right, right.
Um, and when we saw the popular vote coming in, Israel got 388 points, and it was a strange, not necessarily irony, but the statement we got from that was whoever voted for Israel thought not only is his UK shit, but we're going to tell you that it's 388 points more shit.
That was a snort. That means I laughed that much harder.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, we just went, yeah, Austin just went, oh, just,
oh my
uh,
goodness. So, look, I think we just mentioned it a minute ago, but just for shits and giggles, what should we look forward to in season 11 of Cheers besides the finale?
asked this question a few times.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's all right. What should we look forward to? Our Some of our favorite episodes. We get to see the final Bar Wars as well, where
Oh, hell yeah.
we get a return of Harry the Hat, who's one of the early
Yeah, Harry
early shoot.
Anderson.
Exactly, rest in peace. Hi. Apparently the new Night Court's meant to be pretty good. I watched a few
Uh,
episodes.
I'm glad you liked it. I watched 4 episodes on a plane from Amsterdam to San Francisco, and I was like, this is dog shit. And then I went to a different thing. But I
I've
went
heard,
4 episodes. I went 4 episodes
yeah,
before I made that decision.
I did about the same. I did four or five episodes, and I went, oh, okay. But it got renewed for a second season, so some people out there,
I think it's going for a third now,
huh,
honestly.
interesting.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we've got him coming back. We will be finishing the podcast in November, so we'll be looking at other projects we'll expand into, not Frasier because of the reasons being just long, and other people have that covered.
Right.
But we'll be looking at other shows we could potentially do, other projects we like to do podcasts about. So by the end of this year, there'll be news about that. Maybe not episodes, but yeah, there'll be updates about that and news about that. And into 2025, there will be something else for listeners to subscribe to. Yeah,
That's what's up. So,
Yeah.
James Marshall, I think this is a good spot to stop. We've covered a lot, internationally, locally, retroly. Anyways, where can people find you? The Where No One Knows Your Name podcast is available on multiple streaming platforms, but where can people find you?
So on Facebook, it's Where Nobody Knows Your Name, a Cheers podcast. On Instagram, it's at WNKYN Cheers. For me personally, recently I've started a blog reviewing film and TV, which is called Screen and Scene, as in cinematography, the first four letters of cinematography, which is on WordPress. And we put a link for that recently on our Facebook page, but that's something else I've been starting recently. Yeah, those are our main social media things. But yeah, keep listening to the Cheers podcast and the updates for various projects as we get later into the year.
That's what's up. So as for me, I just have stuff around here. And we got less than 5 episodes to go. But the Waffle Box continues on. And it's the original Waffle Box. You accept no substitutes. Coming to you all the way from the future home of Super Bowl 60 for James Marshall. I've been Kush Hayes. You've been you.
Microdose, 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 yeah, microdose.
From the Bosnet family.
You won't have to worry about the German draft board.